I am Nikos Balboa, and this is Balboa Park. I am a trans man, Italian, living in France, and I'm a mom because I have a teen daughter. I've been living in France for more than 20 years, and I'm a tattoo artist, and I do graphic novels in Italy, in France, and in this podcast, I want to talk about the creative process. Hello, everyone, episode 6. Can you believe it? Every time, every week, I can't believe it that I'm still recording another episode. Sorry if I've missed last week episode because I was in a ADHD anxiety paralysis that I'm going to talk about in this episode and why I got this anxiety and ADHD paralysis. Well, I got this the days prior to my trip to the Lucca's Comic Convention, which is called Lucca Comics and Games, and it's been going on since 1965. Yes, it's a very old comic festival in Italy. Lucca Comics and Games, I'm reading from Wikipedia, is an annual comic book and gaming convention in Lucca, Italy, traditionally held on the end of October. Well, this time was beginning of November, in conjunction with the All Saints' Day. It is the largest comics festival in Europe and the second biggest in the world after the Comiket. OMG. Can you believe that my book was nominated for this festival? My book was nominated and therefore my publisher asked me to be there present at the comic festivals. During these past months, I'm experiencing more and more anxiety when I travel. Because I have ADHD and because I live in a very small town in France, in La Rochelle, traveling it's always very difficult and very exhausting because since I live in this small town, I probably never had a direct flight or a direct train to the destination. So I always have to take at least two trains or one bus, one train, one airplane, or and I don't have a car. So all the steps that lead me to the final destination are full of anxiety for a person as me that got easily time blinded or also that has anxiety about luggage and missing a connection. And since my gender transition and since I still didn't have papers that are like up to date with my new presenting identity, I got a lot of stress also related for my papers, the papers control. And I had this very not funny incident last summer with French police at the border from going to the UK to catch a flight. And it was very difficult because the person on the paper is not the person they had in front of them. Despite it was a passport which is biometric. Anyway, this is another story for maybe another time. So I got so stressed prior to going, and also with the pressure about having my book nominated and feeling that I would like to have my book to win, but also telling myself, you will never win, it's impossible. We live in a moment where, like, people talks about manifesting and positivity, and so I was like, OMG, I don't have the right mindset, I don't have the right energy, I don't have the right positivity, so I will never win because I'm not putting into it like the manifesting visualization and things like this. So I got so stressed, I got so paralyzed that I couldn't actually performing very well in life, and especially in recording my podcast. But this also went on stopping my graphic journaling practice, and the things I was saying to me while I couldn't take myself to the drawing table to draw my graphic journal were things such, I can't draw because I don't have the right sketchbook, or I don't have the right pens, or also the evergreen, my works don't matter, so why bothering drawing? So it was a very stressing week last week, until the day on Wednesday I took the train and then the airplane to the city of Pisa, and from there a taxi, a cab to go to Lucca. And when I arrived, I started to, how do you say, to chill, to relax. I meeting with people in my publisher Igort, which is also like a sort of mentor, and knowing and meeting new authors for the first time live, all people I read, or all people are sort of people that I maybe exchange mail before this moment. And it was a very cool moment, because as I often think and maybe say, I don't remember if I already said it in the podcast, but I guess that the only thing that can, at least me, can get me out of the paralysis, out of the stress and the anxiety, is a meaningful human interaction, when I get off my head, get off my overthinking, and just land in my body and meet people and see that it's very nice to connect with other human beings. Anyway, the day after I arrived, I spent my whole day in the publisher booth at the convention, signing books. I often don't have a lot of people coming to get my book signed. Often the people who come to the convention to get my book signed are people who are following my work on social media, or anyway on other platform. Maybe one of you who is taking the time to listen to my podcast is one of them, because as I always say, I always have a circle of very cool, nice people who like my work and support my work. But when I'm at the convention, it's not very often that people see my works and say, wow, I want to buy it. Mm, Maybe it's like 20% of the people who pass by my book without knowing the content, without knowing me, that stop by and buy it and ask for a signing. Um, anyway, that day, it was last Thursday, I spent the day stressed, and then I was desperate in anxiety, and so I pick up my graphic journal and I started one exercise that always get me go back to my body, which is a self-portrait in which I draw my face, I feel, and all the rest of my face, my ear, my head, my neck, my shoulder, and all the body. But I can draw only what I feel in my body. So it's a sort of mindful exercise connected to a drawing exercise, because if I feel it, I can draw it. And so I scan through all my body while drawing it. And when I finished, I start scanning the inside of my body. I mean, I start to look for and notice all the different emotion and sensation and tightness in my body, in my belly, in my chest, and everywhere. And when I feel the sensation, I observe it and feel it and also draw it on paper. So maybe I have this feeling, it's like a tightness in my chest, but what's the color, what's the shape? And so again, while I feel, I also draw. And this is some kind of basic exercise we do in the graphic journaling club, in the class I give on Zoom. And this is always a very good exercise if you are experiencing anxiety. Self-portrait of yourself by scanning through your body, and self-portrait of the emotion you feel. And I will probably put also the image of this self-portrait in my Substack page. This is where I post and archive all the episodes of the Balboa Park, even if maybe you are listening to the podcast from Spotify or Apple or Audible or I don't know which other platform, but you know that if you want to see this drawing, I'm going to put it in my Substack. Anyway, I was there, and then I was seated like in the theater where the award ceremony would happen. There will be one person that work at my publisher, Eduardo. Hi, if you're listening to this. And he started recognizing all the comic artists, and he said, "Look there, this is Don Rosa, the Disney drawer." And then, "Look, he's Jim Lee." And then there were Frank Miller, and I was like, OMG, how is it possible that all those legends are here in the same place as me? And it was like amazing. And I was especially happy to see Frank Miller and Jim Lee because they are some people that formed my teenage years. And then also Joe Manganiello arrived with his wife and his dog, and he got a very cute Chihuahua dog, and he was there seated with his dog on his laps, and I was like totally crazy because if there is like my top three of hot guys, my favorite, I guess that in the top three there is Joe Manganiello. So I was like totally crazy, and I was seated near to this Italian comic artist. Her name is Sonno, Michela, and I was crazy, and I was saying to her, "OMG, Joe Manganiello! I have to do something." And she said, "Okay, go there and talk to him." And I was like, "No, it's impossible. I'm too shy." Anyway, the award ceremony started, and long story short, my book won the prize of Book of the Year. I try to keep calm while I say this, but I feel like a little bit shaky, and my palms, the palms of my hand are like getting wet. This award, it's a Yellow Kid award. Yellow Kid is an American character um, from a comic strip that appeared from 1895 to 1898. And the Yellow Kid Awards are the Italian Comic Awards presented by the International Cartoonist Exhibition and distributed at the annual Italian Comic Book and Gaming Convention, Lucca, Comics and Game, as I was saying. And so there were three Yellow Kid Awards to be given, and the first one was for. I have to pause saying this because I get like I'm going to faint. So the first one was given to Frank Miller. Yes, indeed. And the award was the award of Master of Comics, and is an award that when you receive it, well, your self-portrait, the self-portrait that you will do, it will be exposed at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. I mean, and the second one was Book of the Year, and it was Transformer, my book. And the third one was given to Silvia Ziche, which is an Italian comic artist. She received the prize as Author of the Year. And I'm like, I feel very emotional telling this because, like, Frank Miller, okay, you know, no explanation needed. And Silvia Ziche was like, when I was a teenager, I always buy this, like all my junior and junior high years, I used to buy this planner which has all sort of comics into it, and there were those Silvia Ziche comics, and I was a fan, and I used to copy those drawing. And so being on the same podium of this Italian legend, it's like very cool. Anyway, I've discovered that my book won the prize. At the same time, I confirm that I have this very huge imposter syndrome, because I was like the same night, but also the day after, and even today, after almost 1 week, I was like, okay, maybe I don't have to get so happy about this, because maybe they got a mistake and they will come to me and say, sorry, we miscounted the jury votes and you have to give back the prize. And so I realized that I still can't manage to enjoy this. And I'm not saying I want to identify with the prize and telling myself, I'm a winner or something like this, but just like, it's cool to feel the joy and then move on to life. As the same when I say we have to feel uncomfortable feeling and then move on into life. But strangely enough, I noticed that for me, noticing the good feeling is way more difficult. And it's fun because I always say that I don't have imposter syndrome. Every time some people I know would talk about this, I would say, no, I don't have imposter syndrome. I feel very confident in what I do. But during the years and the months and the weeks, the more I have worked on myself in therapy and also in observing uh, the way I create, and also in observing my life and my experience and my emotion with the help of the graphic journal, I realized that I was so identified with my imposter syndrome that I thought that it was my life, that it was the reality. Um, but now I also noticed that imposter syndrome is very different from being humble, from humility, because imposter syndrome, it's fucking painful, and it stops you from living your life or living your career. We talked about this in maybe last episode, I don't remember, when we don't, or when I don't submit my work because I can't stand the refusal. This is very entangled with the fact that I believe that I don't deserve anything through my work. But humility, when like I'm grounded and then I'm connected with what is painful, but also with what is joyful. It happens sometimes. When I'm connected, I'm grounded, and I create from a place of joy. Then at that moment, I can also be humble because I'm connected. And be humble means saying to ourselves there is always, always, always room for improvement. There is always the possibility that things don't go where we want them to go, but it's okay because we gave the best that we can. So being humble, I guess it's not painful. Humility is joyful, but imposter syndrome, it's like a pain in the ass. So I was stuck in my anxiety and paralyzed by ADHD, but I made the trip anyway, and I'm very happy to have done it because of the human connection with other artists and other situation. And but now that I'm back home since 2 days and I'm exhausted, and then yesterday I was so exhausted and I felt so bad, and I had a nap from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. and I was like so tired. And I also took a test, a COVID test, but actually I'm negative, but I'm like so exhausted. And as usual, I'm recording from my bed in my pajamas. I guess that when we go past what's difficult for our brain to do, it takes a long time to recover. And this is the reason that I've been slowing down my traveling, and I've been slowing down in some works or things like this, because the more I observe my neurodivergence, or anyway my ADHD and my high potential and all this stuff, like I don't want to take medication. I just maybe have made my life in a sort of way that I can manage more or less what I feel, and this is cool, but it's also exhausting, but it's also cool, and it's a circle of coolness and exhaustedness and coolness and exhaustedness. Anyway, one of the cool things also was I've met one very cool American writer, author. He was saying to me, "Oh, your work is very cool. Maybe you should think about translating some of those pages in English and try and find a American publisher and anyway and other things." But it it would be so cool. I would like dream about it so much. Even only having like my work published in English so that other people that can't read Italian or French, maybe they can read it, and also like being published. Uh, I'm thinking about dreams publisher I have from overseas, like Canadian and American. But the joy of daydreaming about this, it's equal of the fear of refusal that arise at the same time. And so I've been wandering around my home in my pajamas, exhausted from the traveling and the weekend at the convention. But I'm also like thinking I should start working on translating few pages of my book to propose it. And the only thought about this got me, get me into this like fear spiral. I'm like, no, 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 don't do it. Because if you do it, then you can get a refusal. And if you get a refusal, the refusal is real. But if you don't propose, if you don't submit your work, well, you can still live the daydream of being translated in English. And and it's quite fun. I'm telling this not because yes, it's painful while you feel it and you live it, but it's also quite fun to observe from a little bit of above of myself those kind of pattern that my mind put in place to torture me. But I guess that as soon as we can see them, the torture get less painful. So maybe this is the reason I'm sharing this in my podcast, all this kind of stuff. I still don't know if I will take also tomorrow as a day off, since I'm a little bit of sick and tired, but also a little bit of stress about my tattoo job, because let's remember that my way of earning money is tattooing, and it doesn't come all alone. It comes with preparing flash, posting picture, organizing my agenda, organizing the guest spot, and also being present at my tattoo parlor and all these kind of things. So it's time consuming and it's energy consuming, and it's also what I like to do. I like to do it a lot, but those days I wish that I would have more free time, more paid time out of the tattooing, because coming back to France after Lucca, I got the title for my next book, even if I had in mind a little bit already the theme. But I got the title, I got the image from the cover, and it's fun because I got this image from the cover. Maybe I will talk about this idea later. For now, it's too new to talk about this on social media or on the podcast. But it's fun because I always work in this way. Like, I have my ideas are boiling in the back of my mind, and then in a moment, one moment in time, I got like, yes, it's this. And so I got the idea of the title, and then I was on the taxi that were taking me to the Pisa airport from Lucca, and I was, as usual, writing in my telephone notes all the ideas, and like in a stream of consciousness, I was like, okay, and this and this and this and that. And then I got the idea, the image of the cover and with the title, and I was like, yes. And when I arrived in Pisa airport, since I was like whining that since before leaving to Lucca, I was whining that I didn't have the right sketchbook. I needed the right sketchbook to write my book in it, to take notes of the book. And when I was in the taxi, in the cab, and I thought about the title and the cover, the image, and then when I arrived in the airport, I saw the image and the sketchbook, they were together, and I was like, what the fuck? I'm buying the sketchbook with the image I want to put. Anyway, I want to keep it like mysterious for now, but I guess it was a very cool, how do you call it, synchronicity, or maybe it was like destiny, or maybe it was like just the fate, or some random act that are not connected. But anyway, I felt it was like a sign. So I wish I would have more paying free time to work on my new book. Maybe one day I should start submitting my work for residency, paid residency, some cool place in which I can go and stay and get paid, all for writing and drawing my book. Anyway, again, I guess it's all for today. We talk about anxiety and ADHD paralysis and trying to make it anyway, and how much does it cost for people who are not like neurotypical to do things anyway by masking the condition of neurotypically C. I don't know. Masking some neurotypical condition comes with a price, and this price is exhaustion. But luckily, Monday and Tuesday are my day off, so I'm taking the time to settle and to rest and to record this podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. You can find it in all the platform, wherever. I guess I don't know if there is a way from those platform to post a comment or a question, but you know that if you look for Nikos Balboa on Substack, there you will find all the archives to the episode, and there is a easy way also to subscribe to be notified when the new episode is out. Maybe you can subscribe also on other platform. Please do it, and also please maybe rate the episode or the podcast. This is a way in which the podcast can be visible. And if you feel like even more generous and you want to give your contribution to give me the time to work on further episode or even my book, you can decide to subscribe to this content at I guess it's $8 a month on Substack. You can also decide to pay annually, to pay a little bit less. But this is up to you. For now, all the content is also free, because I want everybody to enjoy it. But if it's not difficult for you, maybe you can consider to become a paying subscriber on Substack. And if you want to get a tattoo, you must come to France for now in La Rochelle or in Paris. I will be in Paris at the end of November, at the end of this month. And if you want to give a graphic journal a try, you can come to my Patreon. There is a Patreon which is called Graphic Journal Club. Well, actually, it's Nikos Balboa's Graphic Journal Club. And there you can come to class. Class, it's $20, but for $20 a month, you will always have access to all the replay. And there is also an option in which maybe you want to come to class, but also have a one-on-one call with me if you want. And so for I guess $80 or something like this, you can come to class, have access to the reply, and have 1 hour call with me each month if you decide to do it. In this call, we can talk about your creative process, or we can talk about the way we can win creative paralysis, and we can talk about starting a creative routine, or maybe I can help you with other artistic issues. Let me know. Anyway, you can go to my website, which is nikosbalboastudio.com, and there you will have all the info. There is so many menus and portfolios and infos and link. All you need to know is there if you are willing to look for it. I hope to talk to you next week. Enjoy the end of this week, and I love you. Thank you for listening up this point. Bye bye.